Good morning, friends, and welcome back. I am Patty Elhoff, the author of Upcycle with Decoupage, and today I thought I would show you how to take one of these plain old gourds and turn it into this mixed media Christmas beauty. And you may want to turn it into a birdhouse, and I'll show you how to do that also in this video. Now, decoupage is normally the first step to a lot of mixed media projects. So the first thing you'll want to do is take the gourd and wash it off. This particular area right here that's all brown is probably where this was laying on the ground, but it's okay, we're going to cover all of this up. I just washed it in the sink, and I used one of those sponges to scrub it that's good for cookware or kitchen sinks, and then I dried it off. And then I just took a nail file and went over some of these rougher spots. Like I felt over the surface and I could feel some rough spots. And I did just take a very coarse nail file and sand those down. And I said I would show you how to make a birdhouse out of this if you wanted. It's quite simple. I'm just going to make an opening right here, and I took a baby food jar. It's a little hard to balance this, but I took a baby food jar, just took my pencil and drew around the edge. Now I put this up a little bit higher because if a bird's building a nest, a lot of them build these very deep nests. So I drew a circle here with my pencil. Technically, I drew a semicircle, and then what I did was I took a flyer that I'd just gotten in the mail. Ooh, sale at Yankee Candle. And what I did was just placed it over this center part so that I could draw a line. Since this is a round surface, I couldn't use a ruler, obviously. And I just pressed the paper here, and I drew a line right across the top so that I could cut out a semicircle. Now I have one of these drills, and I'll have a lot of this on my website, and I find that I use this electric drill for so many things, and it's not the big bulky type like that, the one that my husband uses, which I hate. And I just drilled little holes right along the line that I just drew, and then I was able to, while the drill is still going, just kind of go right around those lines. And you can see that I drilled little circles right next to each other, just little holes right next to each other. And then went back and was able to take this little centerpiece out. You can also use a drywall saw to get this out of here. And I took a nail file, and that same nail file from before, and just went in and filed these rough edges away. I went back with the drill because this looks a little triangular at the top, and I wanted it to be more rounded. Now, if you don't want to make this into a birdhouse, you can just skip this step. You do want to make sure you shake out everything that's inside of there, and I drilled little holes in the bottom just so that if there is any moisture or rain that gets in there, this will all fall out. And then I just erased the pencil marks from the front. I took a damp cloth and I wiped off the gourd, and now I'm taking my chalk paint, but before I paint this, I took a piece of this gardening wire and just clipped a piece off and tied it around the top because I knew I was going to want to hang this up to let it dry, so I can paint the whole surface of it and then just hang it somewhere to dry. So I took my chalk paint and a small roller brush, which I find works the best when I'm trying to paint these rounded surfaces, and it gives really good coverage with the chalk paint. And I went over the whole gourd and just covered the whole surface with chalk paint. I then put this aside to dry, and by the way, you want to make sure you're using a white or a very light color to go under your napkin. So once this was all dry, I took my napkin, which I have not yet separated, and I placed it over areas of this gourd because I wanted to see where I would like to place these images, and you just want to do a dry run to see which pieces of your napkin you would like to use. Now I'm going for a more winter theme because this won't just be up around Christmas, I'll keep it up all winter. And what I did was I took my aqua brush and I tore out the images that I wanted to use. And you do want to leave a little bit of excess around the image. So let's say this ball right here, one of these, what they look like Christmas balls. I'm going to go around the image, not just right up against the line. I'm going to wet it. This is an aqua brush I'm using to do this. And once I'm done, I'm going to tear this image out. And for this project, we don't want to use scissors for this. We do want to use this wet brush technique. And you'll see why as the project goes along. So I'm going to tear a bunch of these images out, and you want to make sure you have not yet separated your napkin. I mean separated the 3 layers. The napkin normally has 3 plies. There's 2 white pieces of napkin and then this top portion. And you don't want to separate that yet. Now when I'm done tearing out all of these images, then I'm going to dampen my fingertips. And I'm going to, mainly the thumb and pointer finger, and I'm going to press on the pieces of napkin and separate them all so that all I have left is the top ply of all of the napkins. Now we get into our decoupage. Now I'm taking this flat fine artist paintbrush, and that is napkin decoupage glue. It is a huge help when you use the napkin decoupage glue. And I'm going to place the napkin over the dry surface and start in the center with the napkin decoupage glue, which is going to go right through the napkin to the surface below. And this helps eliminate wrinkles. Now, just so you know, this is going to look like a mess for quite a while. I think this is how mixed media probably got started. A project just didn't look right, or it looked messy. And they decided, I've got to fix this, and they just kept adding and adding more things to it. So I want to show you how that's done. So first we're just going to decoupage a bunch of these images around the gourd. And again, you want to place that dry napkin down over the dry surface, put the napkin decoupage glue in the center, and work the glue out to the ends. Make sure you get all of these ends firmly glued down. And I'm going to go around the rest of the gourd and just place these napkins around sporadically. When I'm done applying all of the napkins, I'm going to hang this up to dry. Now once everything's dry, I am taking 2 different colors of chalk paint and a sea sponge, and I am going to cover the rest of the gourd that was painted with the base coat of the white with these 2 different colors. And both of these colors are already in the napkin. They're blue and they're green. It's a very light green, so it still adds to that wintry cool touch. And I'm just going to go around in all of these spaces, and you can cover the edges of your napkin here. As a matter of fact, if there's an area of the napkin that you tore or that you aren't that crazy about, you can go right over it. Here I'm adding the green color, and the blue color is still wet, so I'm doing a nice little blending technique with this. So you want to cover half of it with one color paint, and the other half with the other color paint while it's still wet, so that you can also do this blending. And these sea sponges work really well for this. Then we're going to put this aside to dry. And when this was all dry, I could feel with my hands that there were a few rough spots, the napkins kind of bunched up in an area, and I went around the whole surface again with my nail file, and I just filed away a lot of those rough spots, which rough spots, which pulled away some of the paint, but that was fine. I just went back over with my sponge and applied a little bit more of the paint. And now we're going to go into the mixed media portion of this. So this is some more chalk paint, the white chalk paint, and I took this stencil that I have with a little script on it. Now this is a little challenging because you're working on a round surface, but I don't want this whole stencil on there. I'm going to put little bits of this using a small pouncer brush all around this gourd. And you want to be careful when you go to work on the other side that this side is already dry. So I'm going to add a little bit of script all around different areas of the gourd, and I'm going to let that dry. Once that's dried, I used a stencil with snowflakes on it, and you can see I'm overlapping some of the images that we decoupaged on here, and that's fine. That's what you want to do. Once again, I'm going to add these snowflakes in random areas around the gourd. You may be wondering why I am not using stencils that are made specifically for curved surfaces. It's because I can't find them. So I will have them on my website. They are around here somewhere. They come in really handy when you're doing gourds, but more so for bottles and jars, any curved surfaces. So I'm going to slow this down just to real time for a moment. This was a bag that I think I got some apples in. So this is more about using your imagination. Some people use bubble wrap, some people crinkle up saran wrap. You can use anything you want to get this different texture or feel. What we're doing is we're putting all of these different patterns. You see I've got snowflakes and some script. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my roller brush and I'm going to put it into my chalk paint, but I want to offload that brush so that there isn't too much paint on there because I almost want just a hint of this pattern. So here I'm rolling it on my craft sheet, and I'm going to, you can see that it's almost drying it out a little bit. And then I'm going to go over this netting and just make this little pattern here. And again, I'm going over some of the pattern of the napkin, some of the snowflakes, and I'm going to repeat this around different areas on the gourd, and I'm going to let each step of this dry before I move on to the next step. And the chalk paint dries so quickly, it's already very dry. So offloading the brush, just going in random areas around the gourd to apply this little pattern. And I also wanted to try to use a stamp. So what I did was Again, I was offloading this brush. I want to put the stamp down in there in that white paint, but you don't want too much paint on that stamp. So a script stamp again, I pressed it into that. And of course it's a little challenging to work on a curved surface, but that's okay. We just want little bits and pieces of the script all over the gourd. And I finish this step, let this dry. It does dry so quickly that you don't have to worry that you're sitting around all day waiting for it to dry. That's the nature of the chalk paint. When that was dry, I took a very fine paintbrush and I just started to add little white strokes here and there, and then I rubbed them in, just blended them a little bit, and I'm trying to go for a very wintry look here. And white is also one of the colors in the napkin, so it helps the napkins pop just a little bit more. So I went around and added this. This dried almost as soon as I applied it. And now I just did a couple of more things and we are all done. So what I did was I took a flexible paintbrush, toothbrush. This is designated just for crafts. And what I did was I watered the chalk paint down just a little bit, dipped the brush in it, and flicked off a little bit of the paint. You see that splatter there? And now, like snow on this gourd, I'm going to flick the white paint all over areas of the gourd. Now, this dried almost immediately also, and I wanted to put a high gloss top coat on top of this and some glitter. So I took this outside, and you see I'm spraying this gloss. Now this is important. If you want to use this as a bird feeder, you do want to use spar varnish. I am sprinkling glitter on here, which is a little hard to see, while this spray on top coat is wet. And another thing that you want to do is, if you are going to use this as a bird feeder, you do want to put a little piece of tape over the front so that that spray doesn't get inside, because we don't want that to harm the birds. So I just added the top coat everywhere. This is staying inside for me. I added the top coat and the glitter everywhere. And once that dried, I wanted to add these perfect pearls all around the opening. So I first started out with just little dots of it, but I ended up connecting the dots because I wanted it to have a little bit more of a pronounced look. And while this was wet, I added a little bit of the glitter to it. If you're putting this outside, I would skip this step altogether. The glitter is okay on the outside, but I wouldn't do these perfect pearls around the opening. And now that everything's dry, I brought this outside. I'm going to let you hear the outside noises here. I can hear some of the birdies already chirping around me. Maybe they like this. But this is for the inside. And here is how our gourd looks now, quite different from when we first started. And I hope this just sparks some ideas in you of different ways that you can use different mixed medias. And I just threw some suggestions out there and things that I did. And I hope you guys like this video. It is taking me longer and longer to get back to your questions and comments on both my Facebook page and YouTube channel, but that is a good thing. Thank you so much for all of your questions and your lovely comments. So thank you again for that, and thank you for sharing, thank you for subscribing. And Upcycle with Decoupage is on Facebook. If you go over and click like and follow, you'll be notified on Facebook every week when I put a new video out. I'm subscribed to so many YouTube channels, I get all of these emails and I'm thinking, I couldn't possibly watch these in a day. So I have a few favorites that come to my Facebook page, and then I can watch them that way. And I do have a website where you can purchase all or some of these supplies, or even get all of your Christmas shopping done, since it goes through Amazon. And if you've got Amazon Prime, all of the same features apply. But it really helps me to keep making these videos when you shop through my website. Once again, my friends, thank you so much. I will see you next week with another video. Bye-bye.